Greetings, everyone. I'm Jed Schlackman. I work as a holistic counselor, also a spiritual energy healer and hypnotherapist. And this subject I'll be covering in today's video, something that comes up a lot in any therapeutic practice, in particular when you're doing counseling work or psychotherapy with people. You'll be confronted with the question of to what extent are you going to work on helping the person address their individual responsibility for improving their life, for developing skills and resources within themselves, or shifting their perception or way of understanding things to create change in their life, versus facing or changing the external social environment. We all live in different environments, socially, culturally, family, etc. And those are all having an impact on our life experience, on how we're feeling, how we're functioning, and so on. So if we're doing therapeutic work, sometimes the focus might be more on the individual and their responsibility for changing how they cope with their environment, how they adapt to it or process it, how they develop skills to better handle what's presented in their surroundings, versus trying to find a way to impose or place change on that environment, or to get away from an environment that seems to be overly stressful or overly challenging. And there isn't a very simple or very reliable formula to address those concerns in a one-size-fits-all manner, since each person is an individual, everyone's unique, everyone's at their own stage of development and awareness. One person might be better prepared or more ready to work on themselves and their own individual responsibility, their own tools in a sense or resources to adapt to their environment, to handle things more maturely or effectively, whereas another person might be much more limited in their readiness or ability to do that. And for the other person, it might be better to put more focus into helping them change their environmental circumstance. They might need to get away from certain people that are abusing them, something like that. So things are not always that simple. Some situations are kind of complex. It's not always easy to find a clear solution or ideal way of addressing a situation. Often we're working on both sides of that equation, where we're helping the person manage their individual responsibility for what's going on in their life, while also seeing if there are ways that we can improve their environment, help them have a less stressful or less challenging environment, so that they can kind of reclaim their energy and develop the grounding or balance that they need to better handle their circumstances. We can look at this in many areas of life, whether with children or with adults. With children, it's common for parents and teachers and other people around them to want to protect the child, to keep them from having some type of stress or suffering, so to keep their environment from being too stressful or too challenging for them. So you'll see some parents are very protective They go out of their way to keep their child from being involved in fights and being bullied, things like that. Whereas other parents tend to step back more and they give their children more autonomy and they expect their children to handle more situations on their own without the adult authority intervening. And depending on the child, one approach or the other may be more effective or not. So some children, based on their temperament, their baseline personality, they may be better at handling stressful situations or challenges in their social environment, while other children might be more easily overwhelmed or traumatized. So you kind of have to tune into the individual, whether you're a parent dealing with your child or you're a therapist dealing with a client. Each person is an individual, and the combination of things that work best for one person that support that person's growth might not be the same as what would be provided for a different person. As a therapist, I find it's valuable to do the best you can to just be present with your client, to be open to connecting, to explore their worldview, to understand their beliefs, their feelings, their way of looking at their own life experience, to try to release some of the preconceived notions that we might have, that we might inadvertently be projecting onto our client, that could cause us to not perceive the way they're looking at things or relating to things. So to kind of let go of the baggage that we might carry from our own life or from our own studies or education as a therapist. Sometimes it's actually easier to have less book knowledge or less training, because the things you've studied start to clutter your mind and become filters for how you start to look at different people or situations, and that keeps you from just being fully open and present, truly tuning in to what is present there right in front of you, without your biases or expectations getting in the way. In the field of psychotherapy, in mental health, and even some other areas of healthcare, there can be focus on multicultural concerns, concerns about different identity groups and how they may have been affected by their life experience as that particular group. So whether it's based on race or ethnicity, sexual orientation or gender identity, based on a person's age, their immigration status, all those different things obviously play a role in a person's life experience, but everyone is still an individual, and not everyone, even having the same type of experience, is going to process it or give meaning to it in the same way. So you can be open to explore how those different factors may have impacted a person, if that person has felt abused, oppressed, discriminated against, etc. But you can't assume things. It's not wise to assume things, I should say. And if you just tune into the individual and their story, their narrative of their own life, what they've felt, what they've thought or believed about their experience, you may get a better sense of what's going on with them than if you just carried certain expectations into your meeting with them based upon demographic characteristics. So I do encourage anyone in the helping professions to practice really just being present and open, becoming more sensitive or intuitive to kind of feel what the other person is feeling, what's going on with their body language, with their tone of voice, with the language they're using. So everyone is giving you all kinds of information as they're encountering you. And the more open and receptive you are, and the more you can provide really a safe space in a sense, where just the way you project or present your energy allows them to feel comfortable being fully open, revealing who they are, what's important to them in their life, what are their fears, what are their anxieties, what are their regrets or disappointments. So just by you not trying to impose on them or project things onto them, you're creating a more clear space for them to fully show who they are and what's significant to them. So this brings me now back to the topic of individual responsibility and the social environment and the interplay of those. As we're dealing with different issues, we are growing and evolving and developing different strengths, different resources to handle challenges in life. There can be a kind of fine line between being overly challenged versus not having enough challenge or enough stress in your life to trigger you to grow. So if things are too easy, if things are all just provided for us and there's no challenge, no need for us to develop any self-discipline, any perseverance or resilience, then actually we're not going to grow or evolve or mature as much as a person who does have some more challenge or adversity in their life, where those challenges push them in some way to learn more skills, to gain greater awareness or understanding. So if we're overprotected, that can backfire in some ways, but also if we're overly neglected, if we're thrown into situations that are too stressful, too challenging, too abusive in some sense, then we may retreat and kind of put ourselves in a shell or freeze where we're not going to grow so much. So either of the extremes can be a problem or an interference to our healthy development. And this is something we could look at on an individual level in our individual lives, also in society and culture in general. People tend to fall into some ideologies that go to one extreme or the other a lot, where they want to go out and protect and rescue everyone, whether that's the best thing for those people being encountered or not. Sometimes if you step in too much to try to protect or rescue people, you don't give them an opportunity to face the suffering and to find ways of lifting themselves up, developing their own skills, their own knowledge, their own emotional strength to go through things and come out of it. Many of you have heard the saying that if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, and if you teach him to fish, he'll eat for life. So sometimes we're giving people too many fish. We're just providing things for them to help them seem to have a better experience in the moment, to keep them from suffering, from being hungry, so to speak. But if we continue to do that too much, then the person can become complacent, They just expect us to provide that, and there's no stress or pressure leading them to start developing their own fishing skill in that analogy, so they can be stunted in their growth, in their development, because we've actually been too kind or supportive to them, thinking we're being nice and helpful, but actually we're not allowing them to have challenge or adversity. We're not giving them a catalyst to have to develop skills or resources to handle their own life, to build their own responsibility for themselves, for their own survival, their own competence, their own ability to accomplish things, to pursue different endeavors in life. I hope that this brief talk here has given you some things to contemplate and think about. We all encounter those particular types of dilemmas in life, and we can see it in people around us and what's happening in their life circumstances. And I want to remind everyone that there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution or answer to many of these challenges or concerns that are present in our lives. We have to navigate it on the basis of each individual or individual situation and find the approach or path that's going to be most fruitful in each situation. For those that are interested in holistic health and spirituality and personal growth, I invite you to view other videos I've done on these topics. You can also visit my website, which is phinsights.com. That's phinsights.com. For now, I wish everyone a wonderful day. Namaste.